I mean, is this thing on? Welcome to Double Dose of Raw Talk Podcast, where we always get comfortable being uncomfortable and no topic is ever off limits. A weekly dose of this thing we call life. And, well, if it's about my life, we always make it a double. It's a new level of maturity, confidence, and love. Now let's talk about it.
I think so.
First
Now
of
when
all,
you're
your hair looks great.
thank you.
Your hair looks great. Don't worry about it. All right. So, welcome back, guys, to another week and another episode on Double Dose of Raw Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Misty. And after a week of healing this terrible throat of mine because my voice was gone and the weather is weathering, here we are again, episode 139. And we have a very special guest today, long time coming. So back in the day when I was like doing my podcasting, I would like do this whole spiel on an intro and all that. But then I'm like, nah, hold up. If I'm giving myself a voice and I'm giving my guest a voice, I'm gonna let my guests, sweat themselves a little bit and say all the shit they gotta say about who they are. So, would my guest please introduce yourself and give us all the tea on all things you?
Yes. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Lisa Perez and formerly known as Dominguez. And I am a spa owner. um I'm a spa owner. I am a mother. I am pretty much a very powerful, intense human being. Put it that way.
I love it. I
And the
love
reason
it.
I say that is because there's been a lot of growth, right? Like from when I first started in the health and like beauty and wellness industry, it's been 18 plus years. So I've been in the industry that long, and I'm just such a different, like the same person, right? Same person. But again, like such a growth span from literally from when I started in this industry of like massage and skincare all the way to now. It's just been like such a transformational time. And that comes from challenges, glitches, growth, a lot of like growing pains, especially when you do a lot of healing work. You don't realize the traumas that you suppress, and just the time has come, and I'm not saying that I have arrived, but I am still arriving. And it just feels so amazing. So I say that because, yes, I always introduce myself as I've been a massage therapist for 18 years and I am a spa owner. Yes, I am all those things. But I am first and foremost me. Me and someone who is growing into herself and here that loves people, that loves speaking to people and inspiring and empowering people. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, she chokes me up. Let me tell you guys why. Like from day one that I met her, I was like, oh my God, like her energy, like it just, the way it just hit me. And the first thing I learned about you was you found your person. And
Yeah.
when I met you, this was like a real, and it's just everything you spoke to me in that moment. And I just like just seeing your growth, seeing everything from that day on to today, it's like everything just has been so aligned for you, and I think that's something that people need to hear because it's nowhere near saying, oh, it's perfect. No, it's just when someone is so intentional, and knows what they're doing for themselves, like this is Lisa. And I'm like, I have to bring her on the mic because for one, I'm still on that journey, right? And I'm realizing now more than ever where I could have done things better, where I could still be doing things better in many areas of my life. Okay. No shade to anybody, but this is just what it is. And it's part of my journey. Right. And one of the things I think is so significant to that is to continue to surround yourself with people as you and people who are on those pathways, not the same industry, not the same exact bucket, not the same exact category, but it's that mindset that is so important to be able to be around those people with those type of spirits and souls and minds. And so this is where it's like, no, from day one that I met Lisa and just coming together, it's like No, I know I'm doing right in seeing her journey and witnessing it and allowing that to be a motivation to say, well, you know what? It is possible and I can get there too.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. 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 So, I mean, because we're going to just dive right in because anything we do here, we always keep it all the way raw. But before we could keep it raw, we always got to keep it real. And so, as you guys know, I'm returning from that 400 something hiatus. We kick it off now with a new segment called Keeping It Real. And so, I want to dive right in. Now, in most things with this hiatus crap, that I was talking about that I did that I love so much, there's this thing that also goes into hiatus and it's my favorite TV shows. And so when that happens, I always go backwards and I start rewatching, binge watching seasons after seasons of all these shows, right? And the funny part is, so fun fact for anybody who doesn't know, I'm like to minor in both my bachelor's and my master's. I like to have minored in psychology. So I have a thing with the human mind, right? I have a thing with the way people function, right? I'm not gonna tell y'all which psychology because you're gonna be like, "Ooh, Daisy, no," but I do. I have done that because it's interesting, right? And so I like to watch shows now from the perspective of the mind, the psychological component. And I know it's a TV show, I know they're scripted, but to some extent, a lot of these things have so much truth, right?
Yes.
And so I'm here binge watching all these shows. And so my favorite show, if y'all new here, this is one of my favorite shows, Sex in the City, right? And every single time Carrie begins like a moment, she says, I couldn't help but wonder, right?
Mm.
And so I want to keep it all the way real here and say, I couldn't help but wonder what the fuck. And I'm gonna tell y'all where the what the fuck comes into, okay? There is this frenzy going on with the show called Love is Blind. It is so
Yes.
idolized. Okay, all right. So y'all, Lisa, you get me. It is so idolized. And ever so often I talk about it on my show because keeping it all the way raw, I truthfully believe that while the show has such a beautiful intention, 99.9% of the time, these people have no business being on this show whatsoever. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not just about the love. If we're paying attention to a lot of these different people, a lot of their insecurities, a lot of their baggage, a lot of the barriers fall into their careers, their family, childhood traumas. They fall into so many things that impact this whole intention of finding love blindly, right?
Yes.
And I want to bring this to the conversation because I believe there are mental capacities tied into being ready to a relationship and a partnership. And I want to hear it from you how that reaching that capacity for you took you on this journey of growth, the work, the intentions, and the story of meeting your person.
Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, what's interesting is that obviously before I met my husband now, it was very like, oh my God, toxic. uh, Toxic without even knowing, right? I That was just who I was. And that's not that I didn't know that there was like maybe unhealthy things that were going on in me, but I didn't realize they were toxic. I was just like, I'm just going through this because I went through sexual abuse, as a young child, because I was in a semi domestic violence relationship at a young age. But seeing some of that in my family, I thought that was normal behavior, right? So it's like, how do I know if that's toxic? I didn't. I thought that was just the norm. So, going into like then middle school and then high school and then, going into real like young adulthood, going into relationships, it's like, what the heck? And it's interesting when you mentioned the Love is Blind part of it because I love that show, by the way. But it's so, they're not ready. Like, when I hear some of them, I'm like, damn, that was me in my young adulthood being in a relationship. Like, there's a whole lot of underlying issues that they're not even aware of, which I'm pretty sure the show brings that out because there's no choice when it's exposed. I mean, there's no choice. So I guess that's what happened to me. Thank God not on TV. Thank God. Because
Yes, thank
like
God.
how embarrassing. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
That's very embarrassing, especially when you don't have the awareness and then it's like highlighted, like, boom, you're crazy, right? Because it's quick to throw the crazy card or the psycho card on people when it's like, damn, they're just going through something just like you probably are. It's just that this is how it's showing up, right? So that was like, wow, so that journey um, of, for me, dealing with so much suppression of everything, like not being the most loved, learning English at a young age, having so many insecurities with that, sexual assault and abuse, and then moving, fast forwarding, you have this thing of what love is, right? You're like, I have this connection with this person, I'm in love, oh my God, and you're so happy and so excited until you start dealing with your shit together. And you're like, I hate this person. How can they treat me like this? How dare them?
Mm.
How, the audacity. But it's like, well, that's when we don't realize that we have to do our own homework before meeting someone that we want to love, because we have so many expectations, right? Especially if we're not taught how to love ourselves. Because, and I could say that because I didn't learn how to love myself at that time frame. So you fast forward, you can only imagine all the drama and
Yeah.
traumatized and baggage and everything that was going on, dealing with another person's baggage, insecure, like it's just like fireworks. So you can all imagine, we've all been there. So you fast forward, and then now it's like I'm with my son's father, my daughter's father, right? And again, not working on those issues because not realizing I had to work on those issues. You learn a little bit through each relationship, but how much are you really taking in and putting in work? Unless you know to do the work. I didn't know I had to do work when I was in those two relationships. I didn't realize that I did until I started to feel like, damn, I'm coming into real adulthood. I'm a parent, right? A young mom, and then becoming this woman, hardworking and exhausted all at the same time with cultural barriers. My family's Dominican. So, you grow up with all these things. And then I'm like, wait, that didn't feel right. Like, what what's going on? And then it's like, wow, finally I did some therapy and then did some coaching. Yeah, pretty much like right after I had my son. I have two children now. And it was very like eye-opening because it was like, oh, this is okay. Because again, it was taboo, right? I'm 41 now. So it's very like it was taboo. Do we talk? I had even trust issues talking with a professional. So it's like because you're not even taught to trust anyone. Oh my God. It's just such a mess, right? But the great thing is that I was able to go enter that door, enter the door of going to therapy. At that time, I was like, I guess maybe 29, 28, around there, and still with a lot of pride and a lot of ego to be honest in those sessions, because that was another thing, being honest of like, oh, I'm going to have to really show up, and who's this person for me to show up, because I had trust issues. But then next relationship, I'm like, damn, nah, I gotta really show up. Like, if I want to be better, just like you said, like you're in this journey and you want to be better. We all do, and we all have room for that, and we will continue to be better and greater if we do that kind of work. So now, second relationship, have a daughter, and I'm like, ooh, okay, I see the patterns. Oh, I remember that therapist said that. Found a new one. That one didn't work for me. So it's like really like showing up for yourself and doing that homework without being embarrassed and being so honest about your insecurities. Because it took me a while to be like, damn, I'm going to tell this person my insecurities because my ego was like on 1,000. It's something that we don't talk about, how your ego is to protect you. So it's good at times, but it's also not so good when we do need that help, right? Because it's like, okay,
Mhm.
let's bring it down. Let's bring those walls down a little bit with the right people. So then fast forward that. I said, okay, I like this. I'm liking that I'm learning more about myself because I didn't know that much about myself, which created the not loving myself. But now it's like, ooh, I can see it. So it's like feeling it, I'm feeling it, but it's taken years to get there. So then finally, once I left my daughter's father, it was very like eye opening for me. Like, wow, I've done some pretty hardcore work. It took me years to bring
Yeah.
those barriers down, But finally, like, I was starting to understand them because I was just so tired of them. I'm like, I'm tired of being upset. I'm tired of arguing with people. I'm tired of being defensive with people. But it's because I had to do so much work. So finally, when I did like more internal work, coaching was like the pivotal moment for me, because it's like, all right, already. I talked about all that. Like, Dios
Right.
mío, estoy harta. You know,
Yeah.
like you kind of
Yeah.
like become exhausted of yourself. It's draining. It's emotionally draining. And that's why it is hard to do the work, because it's exhausting.
Mm, absolutely.
Ooh, girl.
Absolutely.
But then coaching became this thing a few years. I was like in my early 30s, and it just changed my life, because I'm like so goal driven, and I'm like, yes, yes, I want to be better and I understand this, but let me do this. So that's when it started for me. That's when I started to understand who I want to look for and why. Because I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know that 3 relationships before. It was just like, oh, we met, great. And it's like, oh, we're together. And it's like, we don't know anything about each other. But you have to ask
Right. Right.
questions like, what, your likes, your dislikes, the intention that, like, what your intentions are in this season, what your intention is in the future, to see that they align. I didn't know that that was a thing. It was just, oh, we connect. He's cute. You're cute. Great. We're having fun. Oh my God. No, it's like
Mm-hmm.
beyond that. And it took me 3 relationships to figure that out, right? And 2 babies in the middle. I mean, whoa, so
Right.
when I
Right.
met my husband, it was like, that was from all that work. It was from all the work. And again, I have not arrived, because there's still so much now on this. There's levels to this healing, like levels. Levels.
Level. I've been saying that this is a whole, I see it here in the show. There's a whole new level of maturity, confidence, and love for me. Like there's levels to this shit.
I mean, there really is, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing, even in the dark of the nastiness of it. That's still
Yeah.
growth, right? And taking that accountability and admitting and just taking ownership of, damn, I act like this sometimes, and it
Mm.
sucks.
Y'all,
Okay,
she is so reading me for filth right now.
and it's real. You know what I'm saying? Because trust me, like, I'm this calm, and everyone is, it's like, oh my God, you have this energy. Yes, I absolutely do. But I had serious, and maybe I still do have a little bit of anger issues. You know what I mean? Because we're always working on them.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
they're not like
100%.
before. They're not like before, but it's still in me because of my traumas. They just show up a little bit differently now. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like serious anger issues, serious, like, where they're not the pretty parts of one, but being able
Mhm.
to take accountability for them and showing up on, damn, my bad, that came up again, and it was because of this. That's being honest
Mhm.
and vulnerable. I didn't believe in being vulnerable, right? Because we got to be tough. We got to show that we're good. And it's
Right.
like, no. And that's what led me to meet my husband when I met him, because even though wasn't with my daughter's father, I dated for about a year, almost 2 years before I met him. I wasn't just dating though. It was very like intentional, because I was like, I am not trying to meet another crazy person on my level.
Listen.
I can't. I've had enough.
Listen.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
so I literally wrote down a list, and I still have it. It was a list of who I wanted my future partner to be. And
Mhm.
I never thought I wanted a husband. I thought I was super independent, super hyper independent, that I was like, I don't need to be married. This is my partner. But then later on, levels, right? I was like, oh my God, I get it. I do want a husband. These are, this is what it is. And this is why. I'm like, that's when I knew, oh wow, I'm definitely growing, that I am willing and open to say, yes, I am willing to get married. I mean, I never thought
Mhm.
in my life
Mhm.
that I would say that. So I wrote
Yeah.
the list. And then I remember, you get caught up when you're single. You're like, oh, single life. Whoop, whoop. It's exciting and
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it is.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it is.
I mean, I'm still there.
And it's fun. It's really more fun when you're not just going to go on a date just because it's a free dinner. Only because you know it's not going to go anywhere. That's when it's really fun. Because I remember in
Mhm.
the beginning, I was like, oh, nah, I know I'm not going to see a future with this person. I'm not going to do the date. I'd rather call my
Mhm.
girlfriend or have dinner with myself or do a checkout and watch Sex in the City by myself, because that's
Right.
discipline in what your intentions are for the future. If not, you're going to be caught up and do the same thing you've been doing. And I made
Right.
sure that in the beginning I was like, damn, this is gonna be fun. Oh shit, single, whip up. But it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, hold on. Focus, Lisa, focus.
God.
You have to like say this to yourself, especially in the beginning when you're like single
Mm.
after a while. And honestly, I was just like, I finally went on the app. That's what it was. I was like, you know what? One of my clients said to me, I think you would benefit from being on the apps because, and I said, really? Why? I wasn't against it. I just felt like I was a social person. So I was like, I'm good. Like I'll meet anyone somewhere anywhere. I do events. I go out. Like I'm outgoing. Like I'm good. And she's like, no, I think you would like it because it eliminates the things you don't want. I'm like, come again?
Mhm.
Hold on. So
Right.
to me, that was game changer because you could meet someone that you connect with at a bar, right? Like, oh my God, hey, how's it going? Ha ha ha. But you don't know that the person, like, let's say I'm not a smoker, right? So it
Mhm.
automatically tells you on the app, like, no smoke, don't want kids. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like it does, now my husband says it all the time, it does the heavy lifting for you first, which is half the battle. But
Right.
you have
Right.
to like literally write down and be intentional on the app. So one of my other girlfriends was like, oh, well, how come you're meeting all these great people? Because I was literally like, once I got on the app, I was only on for like 2 weeks and I met my husband, which is crazy. But
Love
I went
it.
on a few dates and a few
Mhm.
conversations. And I was very direct. And then my other friend was like, well, how come you're getting all these great leads? Whatever. I was
Yeah,
like, well,
yeah.
let me see your app. I would look at the app and be like, girl, bye. You're not even being intentional what information you're putting. So then
Yeah.
like breaking it down, like you have to like answer all the questions. You have to answer them thoroughly, not just, quick, yes, no, because then you're not being intentional on that thing. So basically, you give basic information, you're going to get basic results. That's what I kept telling everyone. Basic information, basic efforts, basic people. That's what you
Mm.
want? No. Well, that's what you're doing. That's what you're attracting.
Right.
So I was like, oh, hell
Right.
no, I'm going real in. So I made sure it was like so thorough. And it really made a huge effort, like huge, because when I would go out, they were great candidates. Like I was like, oh, this is great. But just like anything else, you still need to have chemistry. So there was times where I was like, damn, that's all good. We have a lot of things in common. Like things was popping, but the chemistry wasn't there. But that's part of
Mhm.
dating. But at least now you're in the pool of like the same accountability, the same, what is that called? That you things have in common, or the
Mhm.
conversations
Mhm.
flowing. There's depth to it, but
Yeah.
that takes work too. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That takes
Yeah.
work too.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, I'm gonna go out to this dinner and you don't even find the person attractive. You're blocking your blessings, you're blocking your time, your karma, and the same thing, you're wasting someone else's time and yours. So it's all about being intentional. So, girl, two weeks later, I met my husband. He texted,
I love it.
well, oh no. So I was only on officially for a week. And then I like stopped for a week because I had like met someone, well, reconnected with someone. And then it was like, it seemed like, oh, this is cool. I know this person, whatever, whatever. And he wasn't on the app. But it felt like after a while, you just know after a day or two, like, I don't know. I don't know. This is not what I thought. So I had to kind of like let it go. And I did. I was like, hey, listen, like, this was fun. That's what's up. But this is not what I'm looking for. So I have to really stop. Even though in my mind, I'm like, damn, had a good time. But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not a good time for my future. So I had to be so disciplined again. So once I did that cutoff, literally the next day, a week later, from not being on the app, I go on my app and it was Hinge. Hinge was the app.
Yeah.
So I had all these people, like, I forgot, like matching or trying to say hi, and he was one of them.
Mhm.
Like, oh, something like nice picture. I forget, and I kept saying thank you to everyone that was commenting my pictures. Oh no! And I didn't realize that once you comment,
That
you're connecting.
I learned that the hard way too.
Yes. And I really didn't know until after he told me. So he responded. It was, I remember it was the Sunday. He responded and he was like, "Oh, great. It's nice to virtually meet you too." But the way that he wrote it, the way that he said it, like I saw his grammar was on point. Like you have to pay attention. I was like, "Damn, that was cool." Like I don't know, it was just something. So then we just started talking, and then I was like, "Damn, this guy's asking really good questions." Like good questions, and I didn't have my kids that weekend. I was like well rested. I already cleaned my house. I had a quick webinar to do, and then I was like, "Hey, are you around later at 3 o'clock?" And he's
Love
like,
it.
"Wow, that's very spontaneous." I'm like, "Oh my god, I love that you say that because I am very spontaneous, actually." And he was like, "Yeah, you know what? Like, let's meet up. You pick a spot." And I was like, "Oh," because I was like dating, and everyone else was. I was like, "Oh, I gotta do this, okay." But I liked
Yeah.
it because it was different. So I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
sure." So that's, and literally from that day that we were married. Like there was no one that I dated right after we went on our second date. 2 days later, I mean, it was just amazing. So to me, it's just being so intentional and not
Mhm.
blocking my blessing. I could have still been having a good time, and I would have still been single because I was
Mhm.
going against what I was really like thriving for. And
Mhm.
that's very real because that's how we get caught up. We get caught up in the
Yeah.
moment, and you're like, oh, now you get used to this person. Let me try to change them. Let me try to convince them, or maybe they're trying to convince you. And it's like, nah, you know the sign. Let's stick to it
Mhm.
because you're blocking
Mhm.
the blessing. So I just stuck to it. I was like, nah, you know what? Like, this is not it. Good
You
times,
know,
but I'm out of here.
yeah, and I want to be fair to that because one of the things I took from you when we first met and you told us this story, um, and I had said, I'm gonna try the app. I was always afraid of it. I did it because of you, and not because don't get it twisted and say, oh well, she found a husband. I'm gonna do it to it. No, it was actually more so me breaking away from like my past experience with dating apps because it was not that great. So
Gotcha.
I took that step and I did it, and I'm proud of myself for doing it. Right. But what I also had to be transparent about with myself was I really ready
Mm,
in wanting something serious? I had to face that reality too, in all fairness, one for myself and two for anybody who was matching with me or seeking me, right?
yeah.
Because I too didn't know if you say thank you, you match.
Yes.
So here I am being polite to half the world, saying thank you to everybody, and everybody's matching, and everybody wants to start a conversation. And so here are some very intentional men asking me questions, and it was an awakening for me to realize that you know what I'm not there yet where I want to share my queen size bed, and I've said this before. Remember, I sleep diagonally. Like I'm not ready to share that so consistently and so permanently yet. I am okay. I'm realizing I am okay still with the getting to know somebody and having those conversations and seeing if it gets somewhere. I'm realizing I'm not fully ready for the full on seriousness, and I think it's important to say this because
Yes.
a lot of the time we think women are always ready, women
Oh no.
always want it, and it's
Oh
the
no.
guy, and that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, no.
And I had to realize that with myself and be transparent that I'm not really there, and I'm learning that. I'm realizing
Like the fact that you know that, like, yes,
yes,
that's
yes,
amazing. You don't have
yes.
to be ready to settle down. Like that's
Exactly.
not mandatory. It's when
Right.
you are ready. That could be in 5 years, 2 months. No importa.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing that I realized, recently, and just to be very transparent, because sometimes I never incriminate, I never say names nor nicknames. I'm staying away from the nicknames too. So don't even it's just a whole new level of maturity, confidence, and love, y'all. I'm very
Love,
serious on this. But
love it.
um, in my very adulthood, there has been some involvement. And one of the things I realized recently, I've said it here multiple times, I'm not a cuddler. I'm not all about that stuff. And I actually discovered recently that I am. What I realized is that in a previous relationship, that wasn't offered to me. It wasn't a safe space offered to me for me to feel that comfortability, to be that soft and that vulnerable. And
Yeah.
so I realized that, like, even recently, it was like, oh, fuck, Daisy, like, this is a rude awakening for you. Is because of what you have been used to seeing growing up, what you have been used to in previous relationships, without even realizing that you drag that on with you, or that you just thought it was normal. So this is who I am, and that's not necessarily it. And so that's also part of my journey, like, recently, where I'm discovering, like, no, I do want to be that woman who wants to be loved on. I
Oh,
do
yeah.
want that softness. I do want that. And so there's a lot of discovery happening for me right now. But I think it's important, like I said, to put it out there, because discovering all of this doesn't mean that I'm ready to get married again tomorrow. Discovering
Exactly.
all of this doesn't mean that I'm ready for a full-on relationship. Do not confuse the two. There's so much that goes into this. And so I love that you took us on this journey, because it literally shows us and demonstrates all the many levels of growth in your journey that
Absolutely.
have now aligned to where you are today, married with a partner, a husband, not just a partner, also your husband.
Yes.
Again, two very different things, y'all. Don't get it twisted. Two very different
Very,
things.
very different.
Very different. Okay. People think, oh, well, that is my partner because that's my husband. Do you know how many
No.
people have a husband and cannot say that's their partner? Two
Yeah.
very different things. Okay. And the other part of it is, if I may say, I see even in your growth with your career and your entrepreneurship, how that also has aligned with how intentional this has been for you in your love journey. So highlight that a little bit for me, because that's exactly what I want to go into with the next segment of As Raw as It Gets. Your alignment in the personal, but then also the professional. Where are you today?
Yeah. So, oh my gosh. Like, well, one, I remember right before we were our wedding day, our wedding, yeah, coming up. It was very like I had to make a decision because I had to close the spa. It was like we weren't in agreement, the location, and it was just very random, abrupt situation, and it was like, oh
Mhm.
wow. Um, I actually that was the first time that I didn't fight for my rights, kind of thing, because
Mhm.
I felt one. I knew I was going to leave on my terms. I just didn't want to leave that soon, unfortunately. When I was asked to be like,
Mhm.
yeah, let's just do it now, it was like, ugh. I actually told my husband, I was like, what's interesting about this? That it's the first time I don't feel anxiety about this because I don't feel alone. And even
Mm.
saying that was a little bit hard at the moment because I felt very vulnerable. But I was like,
Mm.
if I'm not vulnerable to say this, what's going on in my life, and I'm about to get married in a few months, like, what am I doing? Like, I need to
Yeah.
really show up as what I want to be, which is a wife and this like real serious committed relationship and marriage. So when I did that, I was kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to say this. But that was part of my growth of like, I know that I can lean on you, and I did, and I couldn't
Mhm.
believe it. And I remember that's when I told him, and by the way, I'm not going to keep my last name. I'm going to actually change it. And he's like, oh, wow, I didn't know. I just assumed you were just going to keep your name. I was like, I just feel like I'm going to turn 40. I'm going to get married. Like, that wasn't even planned.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like I'm just evolving into this new person. So, me being so vulnerable, I don't know. It didn't feel scary, which was really nice,
Mhm.
which is kind of like what you said about the cuddling thing. Like, I wasn't in that space, so you didn't feel safe
Yeah.
with the person, and all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, I do cuddle. It's just that,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So it's like the same thing, it's just in a different level, right? Like, I
Right.
felt so safe. I would have never been safe in another, you know what I mean? Like, I would have been like, oh my God, I gotta find another job and do this and do that, like panic. No, I was like, how are we doing this? And he's like, how will we
Yeah.
do this? And I was like, wow, like, just it just felt really good. And then fast forward into that too, it was very like, all right, so I'm gonna take a little bit of time off. And it just happened to be right, like right when we got married. And that was the part that I was like, this is different. I was still servicing people here and there, obviously, but it wasn't like I had to let go of the location. So that was like a whole new era for me. Um, and then like 3 months passed, and I was like, okay, I don't like this. Like, so the really, I'm like, it's cool. Like, I'm still making money from my business, even though now it's a smaller scale. But it's like, yeah, that's not enough. Like, I'm still independent because I love it, not because now I have all this security. You know what I'm saying? Like, I still
Mm-hmm.
know me, and I'm like, yeah, like, I'm a boss bitch. Like, that's just in me.
Period.
Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
not even like, okay, I'm this owner and maybe someone else is, and they're like, oh, I'm good with this. I just wasn't. I was like, I don't know, I don't, like, I have a lot more to offer as far as professionally. But now I
Yes.
didn't, now I'm moving because I have him as a partner, and like allowed me this beautiful space to like be more. I mean, I was always domestic, as a single mom. Like, you are domestic no matter what. Like, you're on
Yeah.
domestic mode like ten times fold because you have more planning to do. But I felt like, wow, this is nice. Like, I get home, I'm appreciated, I'm loved. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm like, hug me all the time because I was kind of a cold person apparently too, just like you said. So I relate to that because I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but that's a real thing to recognize. Like, I never loved like this because I was never allowed that space. Or maybe I didn't allow it. I don't know. Or it was just both parties. I won't really know. But with him, it was like I feel this safeness that I'm like this llorona now for everything, like so
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable, so like open. I don't know. I'm like, wow, where did I go? Like, but
Who
I've
is
been here,
she?
but I've been here the whole time, right? Because
Yeah.
now it's just being able to vocalize what I really feel and not be judged or
Yeah.
criticized or dismissed. And not
Oof.
saying that the relation is perfect, because of course there's like two people still learning each other, but at least it's enough. When I tell you, I thought I would never bring the guard down the way that I have. And I feel like he still says it's still pretty up. Like, my guard is sometimes
Yeah.
high, but it's still very different. It's in a different level of that. But professionally, it's just like I can make decisions without being anxious that I'm going to live under a bridge again. Because that's how I would move as a single mom,
Yeah.
as a struggling business owner, trying to make it. And the whole thing, it was always like, okay, this is good. But then if this goes wrong, always like in panic mode, but keeping a straight face and getting it done. And whew, there's something
Yes.
about now this space that I don't have that on my shoulders. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a combination of feeling safe because I felt that I made the right decision, and I did, right, with my partner.
Mm-hmm.
And also the space that he has allowed me to feel that confidence to not think that I will have to be living under a bridge, because that's always
Right.
survival, right? Like, survival, survival. No, I don't have to survive in that way if I'm committed to this marriage. So that's how
Mm-hmm.
professionally it has changed me, to not be panicked, to lose sleep, to be like so strong out in the world and then come home and like break down, because that's what I used to do. Now it's
Yeah.
like, you know what? I have you, I have my partner, I have my children. Like, I don't know, girl. It just has been a game
Yeah.
changer
Yeah.
on
Yeah. And I
both
love
fronts.
that. I love that for you because is it safe to also say, I'm gonna, because I got to keep it raw here.
Yeah.
You take your chance, right, with a person, even when it feels all the way right,
Yes.
and it's the same thing with your love for this passion that you have. You took a chance in that moment because
Yes.
that takes trust. It
It
takes
does.
a lot of trust. And I want to be very transparent on this. What I am speaking of today is totally about me and not so much to do with who it involves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I say about, the cuddling or the dating apps and all that, that's strictly about me. That has nothing to do with the other people. This is all about Lisa's journey and what that impact has been with her partner and her love and then her entrepreneurship. And the same applies to me in the sense of where my growth is. Nothing really to do because I mean, if y'all want to hear from Lisa's husband, we could also just get him on the show next time we bring Lisa back. I mean, that's
Seriously,
listen,
he's
he's dope.
actually, you
He's dope.
should.
I know he's dope. Listen, my respects. Just
Yo,
so amazing when I met him.
he
Absolutely.
is.
But it's like, but what I'm saying is individually we got to do the work. And that's essentially what I'm highlighting here to be able to face and see that transparency. But let me ruffle those feathers. Is it also the taking the chance and that trust
Oh God,
with
yes.
the personal and the professionalism?
Absolutely. Because let me tell you, when it was like even dating, it was like, all right, I'm trusting this person, and then meeting him, it's like, you know what? Either way, if it's not him, it's gonna be someone else that I have to jump and take the leap with, because
Yes.
it is a 50-50% chance of this,
Yeah.
because there's two people in it.
Yes.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's why you have to ask those serious questions. Like, our first date was 4 hours, which I never gave 4 hours in any date. I was already anxious. Like, I need to get the hell out of here in certain dates. Like, oh my God, this is not, no chemistry here. But with him, it was very
Mhm.
like, oh, wow. That's a good ass question. Like, wow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he's not playing around. Like, and I love that, because he's from the door, I'm looking for a serious relationship. Great, me too. And then him asking the questions he asked and what I asked, I was like, wow, like, now this is what a relationship entails, like, and how to get
Yeah.
there, because we weren't yet, right? But it's like, oh yes, like, this is what I'm attracted,
Yes.
this is what I'm finding, this is amazing. So it's like, that was dope. And then the same
Yeah.
thing with dating, right? Like, if you're not, like you said, you weren't ready, you could tell someone that, like, honestly, I just want to have a companionship every few weeks with someone because I'm just not there. That's also okay. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be like no one or all of it. It could be,
All
hey,
of it.
I don't know what you're looking for, but this is what I am. This is what I need right now in my life. Like, there's times where I don't want to talk for like a week because I have a lot of things going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, the more honest you are and you communicate that, the more you're going to have fun with dating, if you're ready for dating, or not. I mean, I don't know. I just
Yeah,
thought it was like,
I'm glad you said that because I feel that again that falls under the transparency and the communication. If that is the type of person you are, and that's what at the moment you need, not necessarily a relationship or a partnership, but you do want a companionship and you are deciding, okay, I want that companionship with that person ever so often when I'm not busy, when because when I am busy, like sometimes it just does get to me and I'm in a different headspace. That is okay. And I'm glad you brought that up because what is part of the growth and the being intentional and the alignment to where you are at that moment? One is being the transparent with yourself and the individual work you need to do. And then two is also being the transparent with the other person or other people. For me, I am definitely in a space where I don't want other people. I do just want another person, but I do want to have a certain level of transparency and respect tied into that, right? Because
yes,
of where I know my capacities are at this very
exactly.
moment. So I
Exactly.
love that you said that exactly like that and brought into the mix the word companionship. Again, there are so many differences here in these words, and I need all of y'all to like go to Google and understand all of it because there's differences here.
No, there
Important for
is.
that.
And it's all about capacity. It's about and knowing
Hmm.
your capacity and being honest about the capacity.
Absolutely. Oh my God. There's something that somebody said. I saw it online. They said there's a difference between honesty and transparency, and this has stayed with me. And so, honesty is more so something that is looked at from when you're answering questions that are being asked, versus transparency is when you just lay it all out and you offer that information. And I never saw it that way because I was just saying, I'm a real honest person. No, actually, what I do want is the transparency. I don't want somebody who's honest. I want someone who's going to be transparent because that's the type of time I'm trying to be on, is what I'm offering. It's not what I'm answering
Absolutely.
to, it's what I'm offering. So I'm glad that you said that. Okay. Now that we have aligned the personal and the professional and we see and we hear what this evolution has been, right? I wanna close out the as raw as it gets with the most raw moment as possible before we hit it off with the last segment. Anything at all that you can be transparent on in this moment and say, this is the one thing I could still work on for me, for Lisa. What would that be?
Oh my God, yes. Definitely, it's still my pride and my ego.
Oof.
There's like, literally, I thought like, yeah, I did the work. Oh shit, I sure did on that level.
Mhm. Mhm.
But
Mhm.
there's another level now, right? Because, and actually, I just got counseling for it because there was like certain things that I started to learn about my husband that when he would say to me, I would get really like offended and I
Mhm.
would kind of shut down a little bit. And it was like, what's going on? Nothing,
Oh.
nothing,
Oh.
you know? And I'm like,
I know.
uh-oh, what happened? And then like I really had to get counseling on that. And I got so it's actually been a few emotional weeks because I actually had to go really deeper because it has nothing to do with him why I got defensive about how he asked me something. Nothing to do with him. But
Hmm.
I guess it was like a deeper layer of vulnerability, which I didn't
Yeah.
realize that I still have a little bit of a wall up. Not in the way of like that he doesn't understand or that he's not aware of, but what I'm willing to say and be transparent on in that moment,
Mm.
the moment that I'm not happy about it. So that's
Mm.
next level shit that I've never
Yeah,
dealt with in a relationship ever, not even
it
in a
is.
healthy relationship. So I
Yeah.
didn't realize that that was like a thing, right? Like, oh shoot, like hold on. So
Yeah.
yeah, to keep that real raw, it's been very challenging for me because it actually has taken me like it takes me a little bit longer than I thought it would when it's something that I feel like, wait, but it seemed like it was this. And he's like, but why? That's not how I meant it. I'm like, well, that's how I took it. And then I carry that for days. And he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, you pissed me off. And because of this, he's like, but that's not even how I meant it. And that wasn't my intention. But I believed that that's how he said it and why he said it without asking him his clarification. Girl,
Yeah,
next level.
the play-by-play that Lisa just gave, okay, because we're gonna keep it all the way raw, right? We're gonna keep it all the way
Hmm.
raw. The play-by-play Lisa just gave, I literally went exactly through that with someone who I've been in contact with, where I was so stuck on how I saw it and how I received it. And that person, this was some months ago, still could say there's some form of connection there, right? And that person said, I just don't see where you saw the disrespect because I wasn't being disrespectful and that wasn't my intention. And I was just so stuck on my way. I was just so stuck on it. And I would not, I just no, but it is, but it because that's how I took it and that's how I perceived it. Just I just was not seeing anything beyond what I saw. And with that came the whole, I was told we'll circle back on that. Like we don't even need to address like because we're not getting, and it was like I had to reflect a little bit on that because what's been part of this full transparency is realizing that a lot of it has a lot to do with me and not so much another person. It also ties
Yeah.
into how we take certain actions from, I'm going to ruffle the feathers here, even from family members sometimes, or even from friendships. Is sometimes we just tie it into such negative past experiences that we don't realize it, and we put it onto that situation and that person because there was a slight trigger of some sort, or it just put us in a deja vu moment, right? Because oh, I've been in this space before. I remember what this was like, and this is how I felt. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, these are different people. One is not in the same as the other. Okay, it's
Yeah.
different times, different situations. It's not a guarantee, but it is important to notate that. And I just appreciate you so much with that question to just hit it off because pride and ego. Oh, that can either break you or make you, and sometimes break your connections too. That is so
Absolutely.
huge and big for you to share that here. So thank you for
It's
that.
huge. And yeah, I even my coach even told me to name my ego because that's just a protector. Like basically what you just said that you experienced. I used to handle my pride and ego even worse, like, because I know I've done the work. But now I'm like, damn, this is someone I trust. And then now I'm like so certain that that's how he meant it. So certain that that's how he said it that it's like, well, I clarified that it wasn't. Then I'm like, no, I don't believe you because my
Mhm.
ego is telling me, whoop, protect, protect. This feeling is familiar. Protect, protect. And it's like,
Mhm.
why? What am I protecting? Like, I'm
Yeah.
protecting also not being transparent with where the feeling really came from. That feeling,
Yeah.
that tone, what you said took me back to this moment because of this. And that's what my coach has helped me with. Like, how about you
Mm.
identify that emotion and express it and then be vulnerable, honey. And I'm like, Oh, in the moment that I'm pissed off and my ego's in the way, I have to be vulnerable. Ooh,
Ooh.
that's hard
Mm.
sometimes because of
Yeah.
so much one has endured to now. But then
Yeah.
now it's like having the awareness of like, no, I want to be better. I want to be great. This is my husband. I should tell him why. It's in that core of damn. But then it's also when you get to a
Yeah.
certain level of healing for me, like obviously I could talk for myself right now. It's like, oh wow, I forgot that that reaction brought me to that because it's
Mm.
been so long
Yeah.
and it's kind of like, oh, I don't want to deal with those emotions, but they're there. And then you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I just didn't like how that sounded. But then instead of saying that and going there to the back of that emotion from years, little girl status,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, ah, forget it. But then the forget it built up to other things, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Mm-hmm.
another level of that. So definitely ego and pride when it's time for me to be vulnerable, for
That's
sure.
amazing. I love it. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
that. I think many people who can listen to this could actually relate to that because egos that we all have it. Bottom line, we all have it.
Absolutely. And
That's
we
it.
need it, but we have to know
Yeah.
when to,
Yeah.
have it take a back
Y-
seat sometimes.
Yes,
Sometimes.
absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. All right, we're going to go into the last and third segment, and this is called the Make It a Double. And I've been saying here on this platform for many, many, many years because guess what, y'all? I mean, by next month, although we skipped like a whole year of recording, I'm actually supposed to be making 5 years with the show. So we will be celebrating that next month. But I've
I
always
love it.
said, I'm an expert of my experiences. And so I would like to make it a double. And on this segment, what we do is we relate, we say, we mention one thing that we want to leave on the mic today. And it can absolutely be anything that is resonating with you today, which a lot has resonated with us today. But it could also be just anything that's on your heart, anything that's on your mind, anything that you just want to release. Great, good, bad, ugly, beautiful, pretty. I don't know. But anything at all that you just feel in this moment, you just want to release and you want to leave it on this mic so that when we close this episode out and it lives on there, we let it and we just keep moving forward. So anything at all that you just want to release today, and it could be anything, please do so.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's like I would love to just release like everyone knows me as an entrepreneur, right? Like, oh my God, you're an entrepreneur, this and that. It's almost like sometimes I think like I'm just not that. I'm just
Oh,
me. Like I'm
okay.
just me. Like I'm just Lisa Perez, right? Like who this is, the reason why you love me, the reason you like me, the reason you want to be around me. Like that's who I am. It's not I'm not the entrepreneur, I'm not the spa girl, I'm not the massage therapist, I'm not, I'm just me,
I
like a
love that.
person.
Oh my God. Yes, I love that. That is so, oh my
Yeah.
God. Okay, so that's just hitting my chest a little bit because I wonder how many times, and including myself, because this is something I've shared on this platform already, that I am on a journey now with a career coach. There's a reason why I've
Yeah.
decided that, and I'm on this journey, and I'm very proud of myself for this because there's so much discovery happening with this journey. Okay, it's a
Love
whole
that
new
for you.
it's a whole new level, right? But the reason why I say that is because I wonder just how many times, and I'm going to release this here to add to Elisa saying, and thank you again for that. How many times do we really ask ourselves who we are? How much have we tied into the career or the entrepreneurship? Or how much are we identifying ourselves with that? How long do we hold on to that because of the many years we've given it, right? Or I'm going to ruffle another feather here. Or do we know how to be the many things we are and hold those many roles and take pride in that, right? Because that is, we are more than just that one thing. Or do we select when we even want to be the individual roles that we can hold? I'm ruffling those feathers right now and I'm keeping it all the way raw because I find it that, ever so often we deal with people who will say, well, when you go into corporate, for example, I'm one person in the office and I'm another person outside of it. But you can actually be both things. You're not just one. And nobody should just look at you as just one. I can be the multiple people, and I can be all of it, and I can be great at all of it. And not one takes away from the other, nor does it discredit the other. And so I'm with you on that. And I will leave it and release it on the mic. How many of you actually know how to do that, and ask yourself who you are, and you don't just hold on to that with just one thing?
Exactly.
I'm
Oh,
gonna
you
release
got
that with
it, girl.
you.
Got it. You got it.
I do. And listen, this career coaching shit, listen, when I bring my career coach on this show, because it's gonna happen, let me just leave y'all with this too. I have tapped into my professional, my personal. I've tapped into my wellness. I mean, she was God sent. Shout out to Josie in a networking event she did, because that's where I met this person. And it is by far the best, probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me in
I
this 39th year of life, as I'm going towards my 40th birthday in November. Like it's the most pivotal thing I've ever invested in myself. And it's tapping into so many fucking things.
I
And I
love
wouldn't
that.
have it any other way. I
I'm
wouldn't. I wouldn't.
so, oh, that fills my heart. It's like, that's
Yeah.
what it's about. That's what
Yeah.
life is about.
Yeah.
Oh, so proud of
Absolutely.
you. So proud of
Absolutely.
you.
Lisa, can you tell my listeners where can they follow you and support you and check you out? Because I know she's not just an entrepreneur. There's so much more to her, and she's offering so many things right now. It's not just massages, although I heard she gets great massages, but I'm just saying. Please tell the
Yes.
listeners where they could find you and follow you.
Yes, definitely. The Instagram handle is Empowered with Lisa. That's just a little bit of everything: my careers, my businesses, my life, my husband, my kids. So the fun, all the sides of me are in that page. um, and then definitely, of course, Spa O on the Go, which is my mobile business. And we travel, we do massages, facials, we do corporate, mostly corporate, but we do group parties and stuff like that: chair massage, and facials. And then Life Lab is actually the new business that I have with my two partners, and I just literally launched it. There's going to be a video out in a few days. And Life Lab, there's a link to it. It's not a handle, but it's a link in the bio under Empowered with Lisa, and it's all about every life, like Life Lab, about realness, like the realness, and how it's like a digital platform on how to get on there and like just be part of coaching and the brain, like you said, like events, and just it's gonna be a whole lot of things. You're gonna love it. But
I
that's
love
basically where it
it.
is. And yeah, and there's more to come.
I love it. I'm so here for it. Well, I'm definitely going to start following. We'll definitely include all the handles in the show notes so everybody could go check out Lisa, follow her, support her, just see all the things. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is to surround yourself with people who get it and who can be so much of a compliment to what your purpose is. And I'm forever grateful that I've met Lisa and that I've been able to witness such a journey, and that I've been able to, one way or another, hold on to you and to know that there's always a way. There's always more, that it's okay to be where I am today, and that the real
Yeah.
work falls on me first and foremost.
Uh,
That's where the real work falls.
yes.
So I
Oh my God.
I appreciate you
So
so
proud
much
of
for
you.
that, because we're watching, we're seeing, and some of us, we see intentionally too. So I appreciate you so
That's
much for that.
so beautiful. First
And
of all, thank you. And thank you. And also thank you for sharing that, because it's beautiful to really hear people want to be better and be greater. And so I love that for you. I love that for you and everyone that's in this process and the journey, because
yeah.
it takes time. It takes a lot of time, and that's you showing your love for you.
Mm,
Like,
it
wow.
is.
Like, I love that. Like, thank you for sharing that. That's very vulnerable too of you. So thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for your compliment. It means the world to me.
Absolutely. And stay tuned, y'all, because I just told Lisa, like, once upon a time, myself, the great Josie and Leanne, y'all definitely heard this on this platform, Emily. So we've definitely gone on like previous podcasts, Josie's and Leanne's, and we've done some real spicy episodes, and I have one in the works, and it's coming because it's my turn to host it. And this one I want to do in person, so I'm just waiting for the weather to get a little bit better because my girls be coming all the way from Jersey and I'm the one in the Bronx, and I just need
Yeah.
them driving safely to New York City for this. But it's coming. Just stay tuned, because when the all four get together, it's a whole other level of maturity, confidence, and love, like I've been saying on
Yeah.
this platform. Yes.
Love it.
Oh my God. This was so dope. Thank you so much for coming. And as always, guys, this has been another week and another episode on Double Dose of Raw Talk podcast. I am your host, Misty, and you guys will tune in next week. Bye.
Bye.